So if you stayed and watched the first part of the video and didn't slide that little bar across and miss some things, then I can tell you right now that I gave you the pattern measurements for the body part of this Kitchenaid cover. And this pattern piece I got online from a very friendly blogger who was nice enough to create the piece. She does not have a tutorial on putting this together, even though she calls it a mini tutorial. She basically created this piece for you to print out. So do not ask me if I can make changes, if I can print it for you. I can't do that, guys. You got to do it yourself. If not, you can make your own, you know, measure your Kitchenaid. And you can see she has measurements right here. This is 10 inches across, and this piece is 4 3/4, this piece is 4 3/4, this piece is 5 inches. So you can kind of figure out the measurements if you're not able to print that for some reason. It's not hard to make a neat cut. Use a bowl. Figure out how wide this needs to be. Use a 10-inch wide bowl and circle the whole thing, then fold it in half, cut it in half, and then make your pieces from there. And so it's basically going to need to be about 15 inches high. So you got that piece, and then you've got the two pieces for the inside and the outside, and I have interfacing pressed onto each piece of this. And I'm trying to make my video shorter, so I'm not doing these tedious things of showing you how I'm cutting out the pattern and ironing the interfacing on. I have videos on how to use interfacing and how it works. This is fusible interfacing Kelon number 809 Decor Bond, and I have it on every piece because I want that cover to be stiff. I want it to sit up and not crinkle and fall down when it's on the mixer. Nice little pretty decoration to put in the corner of the kitchen counter. So the first thing we're going to need to do, oh, and you also need bias tape, and I'm hoping that this purple tape is enough. I thought I had more bias tape, but apparently I have been using it more than I thought. And this one is 3 yards, and I think that should be enough to cover, outline the whole outside of the bag when we get to that step. If it doesn't work, then you might see me change it for, maybe I'll use it for the ends, and then on the bottom parts I'll use a different color like pink or something. It doesn't matter. It's just for purposes of the video. But to be safe, if you're going to go out and purchase the things you need for this, you're going to need at least 3 yards of fabric, and that's 1.5 yards of each, and you're going to need at least 2 packs of bias tape because you never know what could happen, so you need a little extra. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take each piece for the inside and the outside, and we're going to stitch them together. That means we're going to have an end piece for the outside and the inside, and I'm going to just baste it, which is a loose stitch all around, just to hold it in place so nothing, you know, shifts out of the way. And I'm going to do that with each piece, like this one, and then these two together. You know, you see that 2 pieces, and then these 2 that'll be the middle part or the body part. You want to sew those all the way together, and I know they're kind of long and that's kind of tedious, but trust me, you want to do that part. And I know it's hard for you guys to see this because of my limited workspace here, but you get the idea. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the machine, and I'm going to show you a speed up of me doing that basting, just so that you get the general idea of what I'm doing. Step, I have my machine set on 3.5 stitch length. You can go higher, you can go to the highest. I just don't like to because sometimes I find it's a little too loose and it'll bunch up in my machine. And I have it on just regular tension between the 6 and the 5, closer to the 6. I have the speed down to medium speed. This is going to be a straight stitch. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off all of this hanging over. Sometimes it just happens, especially since I didn't use a pattern piece. I cut the cupcake piece out first, and then I laid it over the top of the flower piece and cut that out, and you get a little slightly bigger cut. It's just going to happen, so it's no big deal. And I actually gave you measurements to cut this slightly larger than I expect to need it, so hopefully it works out. But I'm going to trim all these edges on all the pieces and make sure that they're nice and neat and there's none of this, because when you put that bias tape over that, it's going to look really messy if you don't do this step. Okay, so now I've basted all the pieces together. You can see these are together and these two pieces are together. Now what we want to do with every piece is fold them in the middle, and you're going to make a mark in the middle. We're going to sew on the outside. Yes, that is necessary. Whatever side you connect everything is going to be your outside, basically. You can do it, this is reversible, but the bias tape is going to be on the outside, basic outside part that you would use most of the time. I don't really see any reason to reverse it, but you know, some people might want to. It's just pretty to have this inside fabric. So you're folding this over, making a crease with your fingers. You don't really need to on the bottoms of the ends. You just need to do it on the top there, because you're going to have to line everything up. Yeah, I did that right. I was going to say, why did I do it on? Make sure that mark is correct, because if it is not, it's not going to work. And it's not going to work by laying one over the other and marking this one from this one. You need to mark them all individually. And I use chalk. You guys know that. I'm cheap. I don't buy fabric markers. I may do that when Hancock closes down though, so I can get one cheap. Now what we're going to do is, it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see it, this part all the way, but what I'm going to do is we're going to line up each one of these ends and pin it at those middle marks, and then we're going to pin all the way around. And it's going to get kind of tricky. No, see, you don't do it that way. Do it this way. So yeah, we do need to mark the inside of this one, because I'm sorry, my bad, y'all. My bad. I didn't bring my brains to the project this time, guys. You may have to several times try to line this up and get everything together right, but what I'm going to do is pin this, and then just all the way down pin it, and then I'll open it up and I'll put the other end on there, and then we'll sew everything over the top, instead of like if we were doing a project that we were going to turn right side out. We don't have to do that with this one. Before I move on to sewing this, I know I got out of camera range sometimes, but this is really tricky. I wanted to show you what I had. Now you see I've got excess here, and I am going to cut that off after I sew everything together. You don't want to go messing with it now. You might mess something up. And you could cut it to a smaller size. You could go 34 inches instead of 36 for this piece, but I did this to be safe, and I recommend it. Because when you're sewing on a round like this and you're having to connect everything, there's just no telling what could be off a little. So having a little extra, not going to hurt a thing. So now what I'm going to do is go to the machine, and I'm going to sew all the way around these pieces, and then we're going to put the bias tape. Okay, at this point I've got everything sewn together. Now I can just mark off with the ruler this excess, and I'm going to cut it off. Make sure you do use a ruler. Don't be brave and think you can cut a straight line, because then your whole project is screwed. And this is actually quite a bit of fabric to get that far and mess up. So okay, so we're going to apply our bias tape, and you always want to start on these end pieces and then do the bottom last, and that's just so that the bottom will cover up the raw edges. And what I'm going to do is take my bias tape. I guess I need to take it all off this card. I don't cut it. I don't measure it. You don't want to do that. Don't do that until you get to the end of the tape. Okay. So we're going to open this tape up, and we have, you can see there's like a little crease in this. We want to lay this crease right along the edge of our project and sew in that crease. And I'm going to do that all the way around each end piece, and then cut it when I get to the other end, so that, you know, you do one at a time, then cut it, and then we'll do the bottom. And if I don't have enough for purple for the bottom, you'll see me use a different color. So you see I've got that first layer all the way around, and now I'm going to go ahead and clip this end. And now what I want to do is, starting on the same end again, I'm going to take my bias tape and wrap it around the project. And I'm going to sew, top stitch it so that it stays on there. And you want to try to get close to the edge here of the bias tape so that it looks neat. You might miss something if you don't do that. I actually am not nuts about sewing bias tape on anything because I always mess it up, but I'm giving it a try for you guys. Okay, so you can see my stitches are a little messy. I tell you guys to be neat, and I have a time when I start getting around this curve, but I'm going to try to do neater with the next one. So there you have it. I've got each end, and I actually do not have enough left to do the bottom, so I'm going to use a pink that I have in here that I think should be enough. And you see what happens when you get in a hurry? You get some messy little lines, so you really do want to take your time with this. And the second one turned out really good. There's some places, you know, it could have been better. So I'm going to get my pink bias tape out, and I'm going to do the same thing around the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at an edge, and I'm going to work my way around until I'm back at that edge and fold it over, and yeah, you'll see. There it is, all done. I know it's hard to see, but you'll see a picture at the end of it on the on top of the mixer. I officially hate bias tape. The bottom part I thought was going to be easier than doing these ends, and it was actually much harder. I actually ended up doing 2 lines because for whatever reason it wasn't folded over good, and ugh. I love y'all, but don't ask me to do anything with bias tape on it in the near future. Okay,